Hey everyone, this is Max from Unsubscribed Healthcare. Today we're going to be going over the Database tab. The Database tab serves as a central hub for information storage and management within the program. It consolidates a lot of the data from various sources and it ensures all the necessary information is easily accessible and organized for seamless integration across multiple different tabs as well as for multiple different functionalities. Columns A and B down to row 16 contain your information from your company information tab from the data center. We can see continuing down column A in row 20 over to column E in row 20 contains all of the company information clinicians. This is where the signatures are put as well as the clinicians themselves. If you have a clinician who no longer works for you, what you want to do is go back into the PT Data Center, click on the Company Information tab, and then select the row that the clinician is located in. Press Delete on your keyboard, and it will remove their name from the possibilities. If you go over now to the templates, you'll see that that row is now empty, but the signature is maintained. If you would like to get rid of their signature, you can simply replace it with a period. The program needs something available and not just a blank space. Otherwise, it is going to place a signature inside of that area that is blank. So you will want to put a period so that it reads that there's something there and it continues down to the next row. We can see a descriptor in column C as well as the HTMLs in column D. This is where the Unsub Menu pulls the data center as well as the shortcuts from. So if you're having difficulty with your company information URL being pulled forward, it could have an error here. It shouldn't, because this is being pulled directly from the directory of the data center. As you can see, import range B15, directory D3 to E11. So it's pulling all of that information directly from the directory, and it allows it to function properly in order to open up these side-loading HTMLs. And that goes along with the shortcuts as well. When you click on shortcuts and you click on subjective shortcut, it will automatically read these URLs that are here so that you are updating it each time with the shortcut of the clinician that is in cell C19, because it uses the import range function based off of D19. And D19 contains the shortcut sheet ID number. And so it updates to each clinician's ID for each time you want to load a shortcut, as well as submit a shortcut. Columns E and F contain custom forms. So you're able to update your forms to be anything that you want, and you're able to have side-loading forms that you create custom yourself. Instead of using the URLs and stuff that are inside column D, now we're able to make our own. So if we wanted to do a really great form, and then we would be able to put in our own URL after we create that form into here. And it doesn't need to be this workbook. It can be any workbook that you attach the URL to. But if we come up here to the Unsub menu and go to custom forms, you can see that it says custom form 1 all the way down to 10. If we refresh after naming it, the Unsub menu will update. And you can see a really great form. We click on that, and now we'll side load with a custom form. So you're able to upload up to 10 forms yourself, and you will be able to update and make it your own. If we scroll over, in column G, H, and I, what happens is that after a patient submits a form, it'll place their name, their ID in column G2 and H2. And then all of the answers are populated from there because it takes the combined, which is the patient unique ID, and it will populate all of their answers from the SOAP note in here. Here, we are able to format all of those answers again so that we can pull them forward easily into our eval. You would be able to use formulas like proper as well as upper in case you wanted to format them a certain way. Over here, you can see save as PDF name, and the way that this is saved right now is it comes over here to G2. So it will say the patient name, the tab name, and the date that you saved it. If you wanted to save it as something different, you could change J2 around and you would be able to save the PDF as a different name. This is in reference to the Unsub Menu option, Save and Copy, Save Current Sheet as PDF. That's how it names it with the name in J2, as well as the tab name and then the date. Form submission name is the same thing. So when you submit a form and it creates a copy of those Google Docs, you can change how it is named. So if you wanted to name it something other than the patient's name, you'd be able to update this cell here. After a form submission, it will create a new Google Doc with the name that you choose. Down here in column J and K, starting in row 3, we have the placeholders, and that is for the form submission. When a form is submitted from this workbook, it will automatically create a copy of the Google Doc that you are referencing, and it takes the information in column J and replaces the placeholders in column K, and it will replace all of the information with the information in column J. You can format this however you want. You can change the placeholders however you want, and that covers both columns J and K. Starting in column L, we get into the subjective shortcuts. What this does is that it pulls forward all of the shortcuts from the workbook of the clinician who is designated in cell C19, and it puts it in here. So anytime you submit a shortcut from the submission shortcut on the side menu here, it will update automatically, and we'll show you that live. So I click submit, and then you'll see in a second, it updates there. So it only takes a matter of seconds to update and have new subjective shortcuts, but this allows you to create drop-down menus in both the eval, the treatment, or any of the sheets, and you can reference this row and this column here. And that goes along with objective shortcuts, which you'll see next. The objective shortcuts, again, are pulled forward from the clinician presenting in cell C19, and you would be able to update the shortcuts for the objective shortcuts here as well. Continuing on, starting in column AB, we can see now it goes into the assessment shortcuts. Starting in columns AG, we see plan of care shortcuts. Starting in column AJ, we have flow sheet shortcuts. And as we continue on, you can now see ICD-10, modifiers, and services. This is pulled forward from the data center. And so if you need to update any of these, you would need to update it on the data center itself, because if you put anything here, it will cause this hashtag ref because it wants to write over the cell that you just edited, but it's unable to. So make sure that if you see a spelling error or anything else, that you would click on the data center and update it there. Continuing on, again, is health insurance. This is health insurance that you've already entered. It will pull that information forward. Same thing with doctors, and NPI is pulled forward when you have that doctor or NPI selected. Continuing on, starting in column BQ to BS is the authorization. If you need to pull forward the authorization onto the eval template, usually in row 23 and 24 is where the authorization is, you need to doubly make sure that the name and everything else checks out. So when you do submit a new authorization, you want to make sure that the last name, first name, as well as the ID all match. So we do shipping, Max. You can see that the last name and first name are spelled the same way. And then I want to make sure that I have the same ID code, which we can see is the same right there. And then afterwards, I can put in my dates, the treating therapist, whatever insurance I have, and you can fill in the other answers as well. As long as it is a match to the last name and first name and the serial, it will pull that information forward. If you don't see the information here or the authorization is not being pulled forward, it's because there's probably a spelling error or there is an error between the patient ID and the ID that you entered. So make sure that you enter that correctly in order for the authorization to be pulled forward, because we can come here and you can see now the authorization has been pulled forward. To access that, you would come up here into Data Center and go into Authorizations in order to fill that in. BT and beyond are aren't really used, so you don't need to mess with those for this current sheet. There is an exception. The only difference is that you'll see between the pre-made templates of the database is that the pelvic floor will have a section over here. So you can see here of the pelvic floor, starting in CZ, you get the unique pelvic floor options that are available, and you'd be able to organize everything from here. If you wanted to, you could also check on the neuro, and neuro is the only other one that is unique because they both have their own Google form that is attached to them. And neuro starts in column CF. So if you wanted to update neuro, you'd be able to do that. You can color code these however you want. And if you were going to add in more information, or if you were going to add in more questions to any of these shortcuts or their forms, you would need to update this area here in order to include that. Updating this area would include adding a new range in the import range. So you would need to update if there's more questions, you would add more columns. So it wouldn't just end at G. However many questions you would add into the same amount of columns. And then the other thing that you would want to do is that you would want to highlight the area and then click on Insert Rows to the right. And you would want that to be equal to how many ever questions you add. The reason why we have the shortcut system set up this way is that it makes it a lot easier to have dynamic and updatable ranges, and it has it all in one place where you can go to find all of the information. I hope this video is helpful for you. Please stick around and watch the next video where we go over the templates tab.